إن ربكم الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش
Yeah, and we start. Okay, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Welcome everyone back to the Insight to Islam Zoom discussion. I call it Scientific Saturday, where we discuss academic issues, scientific issues with our esteemed teachers and scholars. So today we're dealing with an issue called Money Matters. It's going to be a series of talks dealing with the issue of money, the big issue of money, what is money, how to use money, and new developments in dealing with money. And with us, we have our Ustad, our technocrat, our Ustad Rabbani, who knows how to get a topic, break it down, and make it easily understandable for the community, mashallah.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Today we're dealing with the title of it is How Not to Be Scammed. So basically the idea behind this talk is, if you understand what money is and what it can do, you're less likely to fall for scams where people tell you we're going to give you 200%, give us £10 and we'll return that into £5,000 within a certain space. So if we understand what is money and its limitations and what can be done with it and what can't be, we're more likely not to fall into scams. So this is going to be a series of 4 talks. And the second one, what's the second talk? I've got this here. So the first talk is Don't Get Scammed. The second one is Money, the Biggest Scam of the Century. The third talk will be Mortgages, Finance, Pensions, the Matrix Scam. And the last one is about Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin hard money? So this series of these talks, Money Matters, is going to look at money in a holistic view, what can be done with money and what can't be. So if we understand this subject, we're less likely to get scammed. So what we're going to do is we're going to let Marwia do a presentation about this issue, and then to the end, when we get to the end, we'll then invite questions to the Sheikh. Is that okay with you, Sheikh?
Yeah. Ahlan wa sahlan. We're good.
Okay.
Excited.
Okay. Let's start with the presentation. I'll let you lead the way, and then later on we'll jump in with some questions for you. That's okay.
Cool, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Going back to the beginning, in the beginning we had Adam and his wife and his children, and they were living and existing, and they were striving, and they were struggling, and they were working, and they were eating, and they were living, and they were doing what human beings do, what we all do. But they were a small family, and the dynamics of a small family took place, as with all families take place. The same dynamics that Islam comes to encourage and preserve, Silatul Rahim, joining the ties of kingship, joining the ties of the womb. And therefore we have a dynamic, an economy within the home, and that is the economy, or the gifting economy, or the perpetual debt economy. Meaning, what the parent does for their children, what siblings do for each other, this is an eternal debt that never, ever, ever can be paid back. It can never, ever be quashed or settled. It's a continuous thing that is, at some point, I'll receive my dues. And that's how you maintain a healthy balance in your family, immediate and extended, because there's always this perpetual debt. It's interesting when you analyze the Islamic Sharia and you look at how things are structured. Family is at the core. And some examples, let me throw some examples out there why family is the core financially even. If a person was to accidentally kill someone and they have to pay the blood money goes to the aqila. It goes to the relatives of the individual who did the crime or made that mistake, and they have to help settle that debt. Now, why is that? 100 camels ain't cheap. And we can't expect every person who accidentally kills someone to happen to have 100 camels at hand. However, what we find is that burden rests on the family, because the family are jointly responsible for this individual. And with this mas'uliyah, with this family responsibility, we have accountability. At the moment, our family structure is broken, it's destroyed, it's weak. We have brothers and sisters starving whilst that the siblings have no idea what's going on. Parents are dying in their homes and their children don't even know that they even had rent to pay. It's broken. And the reason why it's broken is important here. The reason why it's broken is because society itself broke it. Meaning we have put in place, and I say we, I mean as in the inhabitants of the kingdom, we have put in place rules and regulations that absolves us of our family responsibilities, i.e. scenario number 2, if a family member is poor or is needy, who is the first port of call for helping them out financially? It's the family. We go towards the brothers and the sisters and the aunties and the uncles and the parents and these are the people who primarily are supposed to dip in, whip round and give them some money to help them sort themselves out. Why? Because with the family, we have accountability. If I know that I have to get my brother or my sister, or I have to go to ask my mum for money, then I know I better use this money wisely because I can't go back again. Whereas if I have to get the money from the state, then just take until eventually it dry up. There's no accountability. No one cares. So we don't care about the state, and the state don't care about us. It's just a transaction. Just money go around and whatever. So you can see here that the ties of kinship between the people are weakened because we essentially have sought help from others externally from us. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the family structure. The first economy was the family. This perpetual help and support that we have for each other. This is what we need to, as Muslims, nurture in ourselves and nurture in our children. Very important. The children, make sure that the siblings, that the children always help each other out. If they need help, direct them to each other. Make sure that when they grow up and become adults, that is maintained, because that is actually the real value in children. And that's why I always encourage people to have as many children as possible, because again, the more children you have, you're lightening the load individually. If you have 2 children, then one is responsible for the other one entirely. If you have 5 children, then one is responsible for the others and others responsible for each other. You share in the burden. If you have 10 kids, for example, and you get old and frail, you can't look after yourself, one of the 10 must be around, isn't it? One of them must be around to do some shopping and whatnot, as opposed to if you have one kid, then you have to, basically, he's become, I'm not saying in a bad way, but it's almost Sijin, it's almost prison. He can't go nowhere, can't do nothing, he must be around. So I'm just saying is that one of the biggest things that we have lost as a community, as Muslims, is these family values, this family economy. We don't develop it. We don't grow it. We seem to just almost see it as a burden. Oh, brother, you got 8 kids. How do you do it, brother? I mean, what do you mean? How do you do it? Why don't you do it? That is the question. Anyway, so and we see this ironically, and this is one of the things that this is why I really alhamdulillah. We should also alhamdulillah for the blessing of al-Islam. There's always certain ideologies that I've stuck firm to, primarily because they were Islamic ideologies. And although the narrative at the time was something else, I said, no, I don't care what you say. Allah will not leave us this way. Let me give you an example. When I had my first child, all the nurses, every one of them said, you have to give them bottled milk. Breast milk is not enough. I said, what do you mean? Why would Allah create women to have children and don't have the ability to feed them? Now, I don't deny that some women might struggle, but I'm saying that can't be the default. I don't believe that Allah will create a woman to be unable to feed her children. So I said no, and I refused. Fast forward 10 years later, everyone's saying, yeah, give them the breast milk. But why did I not believe that narrative? Because the narrative was false. Islamically, it was false. Allah told us it was false. Scenario number 2. I remember I got a job. I was working there only for 3 days because it was a funny story. But basically, I discovered that it was a charity organization. I discovered it after I joined them, that wanted to try and help reduce the population of developing countries, because apparently they were poor because they have too many kids. And I said to them, that don't make no sense. You're trying to solve a problem by causing another problem. And that's why I got fired. But put that aside, that was what it was, the narrative for decades, by the way. And I think there are still some who have this narrative that overpopulation is the problem. Fast forward now, we now see one of the biggest countries growing on the globe are the two most overpopulated countries on the globe, China and India. Why are China and India moving and leaping forward so quickly? Not many reasons, not just children, but with that population, they are able to leapfrog and grow and produce. And now these same countries that are pointing their finger saying, oh, they've got too many people in there. Now they're worried and panicking. Oh, we're not gonna have our kids to sustain our population. We need to get the immigrants in, So we need to start sticking to our Islamic values and narratives and believe when the Messenger of Allah says, تزوج الولود الودود فإني مكاثر بكم الأمم. Marry the fertile and affectionate women because I want to compete on the Day of Judgment in terms of number. There are benefits and blessings within the Sharia, and we need to develop and nurture this economy of the family. That's the basis. That's the beginning. But then after Adam and his children, and they expanded, and the family expanded so much that maintaining that relationship between the family became weaker. You know, eventually a portion of them might go off and make their own little village, their own little jama'ah, their own little group. And when that happens, there needs to be a means now to record what I do for you. Because in the family, I don't need to record anything. It will balance off. But now my man is over there. I'll probably never see him again. And I'm going to do something for him. And I now need somehow to record this work that I'm doing for him in something feasible, something manageable. In the past, we used things to record items. So yeah, you build me a wall, you sweep my front porch, and I'll give you some chickens. You know, I'll sort you out. Don't worry, inshallah. Or I'll give you a bag of rice or something more. I'll give you something in it. That was the beginning and the birth of commerce and the birth of money. We used things to store our energy and to store our efforts so we can use it later on in the things we do want. I don't want to sweep your porch. I don't want to build a wall, but you do. So if I do it for you, I can use that energy that I have exerted and I can store it in something so I can now transfer that energy to something else. But pay my rent, do my bills, that kind of stuff. And this is the birth of effectively currency and money. And as time has gone on, mankind has always developed and moved forward and expanded their ability to do certain things and want to do things more efficiently, faster, and better. That's just the nature of man. When it comes to farming, we use better tools, better materials, better skills, and we just grown. And mankind has always been growing, and our knowledge has been growing, passed down generation to generation for centuries, as we know this. So if we understand that at the very core of human civilization is hard work, providing services and products for others, and then receiving in exchange for that hard work something that we can use for our own needs. This is essentially what we do as human beings. That's what we do. And I'm going to be a bit technical here by using a specific word commonly used in the science area. It's called entropy. Entropy basically means randomness. So, for example, sand is scattered throughout the dunya. It's all over the place. It's just scattered. Yeah, some places have more than others, but it's just all over the place. Now, that has, you could say in a way, a higher entropy than if I was to take that sand, melt it, fashion it into a nice little vase, and now it's, are you guys still there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Gone. Okay, so you're screaming that, but dark. Yeah, and fashion that sand into a vase, and now I've decreased its entropy. I've decreased its randomness. It was random and scattered, and then I decreased it, and now it's organized. And that's essentially at the core of every activity that Muslims do, or people do, I should say, is that we effectively decrease the randomness, or we increase in organization. We organize things. And this is one of the things that Islam, especially the Muslims, have brought, or that we brought a lot to the world. It wasn't jihad, it wasn't the sword, It was actually the ability to organize, structure, give structure to what was madness. Look at the structure the Messenger of Allah brought to Quraysh. They were in chaos, killing each other, warring with each other over nonsense. But he came to them and brought to them structure, legal system, laws. The Sharia itself is structure. It's bringing organization to what is effectively randomness. And one of the biggest things that Islam came to bring was the organization in the markets. So, for example, we have a farmer over here, he's doing his thing. We've got a miner over here, he's doing his thing. We've got another person over here, they're doing their thing. So what does the merchant do? He gets his produce from over there and from over there and over there. And he might even do some work on those items and then produce something and bring it to the market. So the marketplace is effectively a central location for the organization of scattered resources. Listen carefully. The marketplace is a central location for the organization of scattered resources, making these scattered resources available to you to produce and do something. Remember that, to put this all together and to actually do something with that scattered resources. That's effectively what the market does. And from that time onwards, or I guess even before that, every mankind has understood that if you want to make something of yourself, you're going to have to do something. We even see that from the example of one of the Sahaba who was a Muhajiri, and he migrated to Mecca to Medina. And when he got there, he was made rather one of the Ansar, and they said to him, look, I have 2 wives, I have loads of money, I'll give you half in it. Why must I have and you not have? Let me give you in it. And what him say? No, show me where the market is and I do my thing. As in, show me how I can use my hand and produce and earn my keep and then eventually make my own way. This is the mindset of the Muslim. This is the mindset that we should be having. And unfortunately, we are being robbed of this mindset. May not be deliberate, it might be just incidental, but the reality is we're being robbed of this mindset. I see, unfortunately, so many Muslims who are crying out and asking government for help, not realizing that we need to make our own help. No, don't get me wrong. No, I don't want to upset anyone saying, brother, what are you trying to say, man? My man can't get the help. No, I'm not saying you can't get the help. I am saying there's initiative. We need to be proactive. We need to not wait for the help to come, but try help yourself. If you get help, then get help. No problem with that. I mean, there's nothing in the Sharia which says you can't get help if help is given you for free. But understand the same mindset of that Sahabi. He could have landed in Medina from Mecca with nothing, and he could have already got set up with some help. But there was a reason why he wanted to do it himself. He wanted to earn his own keep. And this is same kind of psychology we find woven within the fabric of Al-Islam. To the point whereby in Al-Islam, it is said as part of the principles of the Sharia of commerce, that money cannot transfer from one hand to the other without a Shari'i purpose, without due purpose. It has to fit into something. Either you're giving to him sadaqah or you're doing business. Something must happen to justify the transfer of wealth from one hand to the other. It has to. So this is how we need to start understanding our mindset, especially in this series which we're focusing on money. We start literally getting pumped. Yeah, I want to earn that money. I want to do something. I don't want to sit down and wait for any handout. Nah, I want to get up. I want to do something. Now, the joke is, you might work for 5 years, might work for 10 years and don't see anything. And think, I'm not doing anything useful. I'm wasting my time. Not necessarily. If you're working and you're doing something and you're not seeing any fruits that you were expecting, it doesn't mean there are no fruits. There's a reason why certain people get paid more, although they effectively do the same as you, because they actually have years of experience. The extra money they're being paid is due to their extra skills they have on their back. They put in the years, they put in the hard work for that. And this is why we need to understand, especially the youth them need to understand, you don't deserve any set wage, you don't deserve any particular help. You got to work like everyone else has to work. And as you work and earn your keep and you build your skill level, then you qualify. Because it's almost like there's a lot of games in it. Once you go to the next level, you beat the boss, then you go to level 2, then you collect your coins, and then you beat that next boss, then you go to level 3. It's the same kind of thing. Everyone has to start somewhere, work hard, and get there. That's why I always encourage people, especially when it comes to things like university. People say, "Oh, student loan, is it allowed?" Listen, why? What's wrong with working hard for a couple of years, earn your keep, get the money in your hand, and then pay for your education? So therefore, when you do actually get your education, you actually value it because you paid for it yourself. I spoke to a brother about a month ago, and he finished his degree a couple of years ago, and he paid for it himself. I said, brother, we need to chat, man. How do you do it? Because I know lots of people saying, "Oh, how you do that? How you do it?" I said, look, when he was speaking to me, I thought to myself, you know what? We need to chat some. We need to get your story out there. He said he did anything, leafleting, washing cars, going around and saying going door to door, putting things in the letterbox, doing delivery while he was finishing his I think it was maths. I think it was maths degree. No, it wasn't maths. It was something to do with numbers, either economics or maths or business or something like that. But the point is, he managed to take the steps, and he managed to finish his degree, no interest. I said, brother, you need to get your story out there, because many people think, oh wait, it can't be done. And clearly you're an example of how it can be done. And this is the issue, is when he told me how he did it, it just highlighted this issue that you have to be willing to get up with your hand and do something. Maybe you might have to work like 80 hours a week, studies and work, and you're knackered all the time. But so what? Earn your keep. And this is the kind of mentality Muslims need to have, if you want to move forward. So everyone here who's thinking, yeah, I want to learn about business. I want to get more financially stable. I want to kind of stuff. If you haven't got the mentality to work and try and make effort and fail again and keep on failing until you make it, if you haven't got that mentality that that's what you want to do, then it doesn't matter what I tell you after this. I could tell you about Amazon stocks. I could tell you about drop shipping. I could tell you about all these kind of things. If you ain't got it in your head that you need to work to get to it, it's not going to mean anything to you. You need, as a basis of Islamic ideology, is to understand that with effort, knowledge, work, inshallah, you get rewarded for that. Inshallah, you get rewarded for that. And that's how the open market is. Maybe you don't get rewarded for it. Maybe you're just destined not to happen that way. And to be that is what it is. Again, we, as Muslims, qaddar Allah. You put your effort, Allah will reward you whether you got the thing or didn't get the thing. Maybe the reason why you didn't get what you wanted to get is because if you did, you would have been corrupted. It's possible. I've seen it. I've seen it in Medina. I've seen students come to Medina University. They had the best akhlaq, the best manners, soft people. By the time they finished, they were the most arrogant people I've ever met in my life. And I wondered to myself, how did you go backward? How did the knowledge make you turn out worse than when you came? It could happen. So maybe something that you want isn't actually good for you. But back to the point. Scams. We're here to talk about scams, isn't it? We're not talking about business acumen. We're talking about scams. What is at the core of being duped by a scam? Greed. You want something and don't want to work for it. That's the basis of a scam at the end of the day. Because I guarantee you, most people who get scammed, and it's not to put anyone down, by the way, it's not to put anyone down, but most time when people get scammed, somewhere in their mind, they kind of knew. We all know this, isn't it? As in, it was kind of too good to be true, but I did it anyway. And then you got scammed and like, why did that have to happen to me? Because you kind of knew anyway. And there's a reason why you kind of know. There's a reason why you kind of know. It's because we have been raised and we see around us from our environment, and we know that something not come from nothing. You don't just become a millionaire just like that. You actually have to do something. That something you have to do might just be something as simple as educate yourself. I mean, it's possible. You put your money into this thing and it goes up to £1 million and you withdraw your cash and you're living it good in Malaysia on the beach. It's possible. But most times it was either you did some research, you read something important, you took those necessary steps, and it paid off. And on top of that, which is another thing which you'll need to also be aware of, gaining the money doesn't mean you keep the money. As the saying I just said this not too long ago, a fool and his money are quickly parted or easily parted. So education, hard work is at the core of everything, and being scammed, you could say the basic premise of a scam is basically using that human that human thing that we all have, which is I want to get something for nothing, or at least for little to no work. So if I tell you, yeah, bruv, this thing I know, man. Guy did this and he did that, and within a year, man, he was a millionaire. He turned like $1 grand into $1 million grand. All you had to do was just do this one thing. Okay, great. How'd that happen? Sign me up. Where did I send the money? Often that's sometimes that's how it goes. It's that simple. They gave a promise. They gave you some surface idea of how it works, and then you filled in the gaps. You thought, yeah. Actually, the joke is, most cases we don't even think about how we got there. We just think, yeah, if I did this from over here, next minute I'm over here. We don't actually think, how did I get from here to here? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the journey. I just want to get here. Come, let me just put the money here, and then I end up here like that teleportation. It don't work that way. You need to understand, and this is part of the hard work. So this is not a put down of investing. It's actually the opposite. I'm saying investment is the key, but it's biggest part of investment or any kind of thing you put your money in is education. How does this thing work? What makes it profitable? Is it repeatable? Can I repeat it? Can someone repeat it? Is there some kind of skill set here that is involved here that makes it valuable? Why is this guy the only guy doing it? Is it secret? That's another key one as well. Is it a secret thing? Is it something that only me and you know? Is it shh, brother, just let me tell you something. Do this one thing. If it's secret and it can be done, why is this guy involving you? Why don't he just do it himself and make his own money? I mean, if you knew there's a mountain of gold over there, you would just go and get the gold in it. I mean, why would you go and say, yeah, but guys, check it out, man, there's gold over here. Why would you announce such a thing? There has to be a reason why he's involving you. Are you a customer? Are you the product? What's going on? These kind of things you need to understand. That's why from even myself, when it comes to investment or any kind of thing I do financially, I always ask myself, and this man knows this personally, I always try to do it myself to my own detriment. I think, if it can be done, I mean, if it's that easy, why can't I just do it myself, innit? Why do I need you to do it? Why do you need to do it? And I have to know, okay, if I'm going to get you to do it for me, then you have to prove to me that you can do it and that I can't do it, and that you're worthy of me giving you a cut. Does it make sense? So these are the you can say the nuggets of information that are necessary for people to be aware of to help prevent themselves from falling into scams. And it's very, 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 very important to lay that foundation. If you want money, you have to work for it. And work doesn't necessarily mean physical work. It could be educational work. It could be just using your intellect. It could be research, asking around what other people have done this kind of job and how feasible is it to work and how long has it been happening. Sometimes something actually it works, it's feasible. But maybe at that time you get in, it's not feasible anymore. Let me give you a story. So a guy comes to the village. He says to a couple guys, guess what? Down the ravine in the valley, I found a cave. Everywhere there's gold. I just got my axe. I just pick out as much gold as I can. Look, I got a whole bag full of gold. Trust me, it's wicked. So two men hear that. They run down to the ravine with their bag. They find the gold where he said it was. They start picking out the gold, fill up their bags, come back to let everyone, guys, oh my days, there's a cave of gold. Man, find the cave of gold down there. You got to get some. So then 4 other men get their bag, they rush down to the cave to get the gold, and they get the gold. They fill up their bags, they come back. After a couple of rounds of that, now 20 men turn up at the cave looking for the gold. Where's the gold? It's finished. Gone. That's business. That's how it works. You have to always be up to date. Nothing lasts forever. You have to always be on your toes. And that's why knowledge is so important when it comes to making money. Because with knowledge, not only do you know how to make money, you also are aware of when the money dries up, where else to go. Look at the Sahabi who came and migrated, and he said, where's the marketplace? He went to a new market, not his market. He came from Mecca. He knows about his place. He went to a new market, new people, new industry, but yet he still made himself because he had knowledge. He was able to analyze the market. Where are the avenues? Where can I enter in and where can I exit? Whereas with these scams, this is another one of these tips about scams. With a lot of these scams, there's no learning involved at any level. There's nothing you can learn. So, for example, some of these pyramid schemes, literally all you do is transfer funds. That's it. There's nothing more to learn. So what that means is, even if it is actually a legitimate business, when that cave of gold is finally dry, you can't actually do it. You can't go somewhere else to get gold. You have no skill set. You should always, whatever you do, whatever you invest in, make sure there's at least at some point, even if you don't make money from it, you've at least learned something. Remember, when you do business, it's not about just gaining physical cash in your hand. It's also, what skills have you learned in the process? What experience have you gained in the process? And what can you take from that other than just the money? So you can rinse and repeat somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So these are the kind of things that you don't find in a scam. And without those things, you do find in a scam. So what I don't like to say to people is that, I'm not saying that it's not possible to turn £1,000 into like £50,000. It's actually definitely possible. I know personally of some brothers who invested some money, like literally £2,000 into something, and now it's actually worth over £40,000 within like a couple of months. I'm not even joking. I've seen the actual figures. I'm not even joking. But what I'm saying is, there has to be some kind of knowledge involved in this, some kind of education involved in this, some kind of way to understand where you can manifest to yourself before you throw your money at something. Is this actually a feasible investment that has likelihood of producing income? So I know I was. Before I conclude, I was going to give you some examples of scams that exist. This is like as exercise applying what I just said. So there's this thing I did a discussion with I think Knowledge College a few months back. This thing called iBoomerang. So the way the model works, it actually sounds quite a good model. And this is what's unfortunate about a lot of these scams, is that they actually sell a good model. If only they actually did what they said, that'd be great. but it's not always the case. So they apparently sell holidays. So you get cheaper holidays. That's basically what the product is. You sell holidays. So you tell your friends and family, look, if you book this holiday, you're going to literally get it for like 30% of the price of what everyone else will be getting. And if they sign up, obviously you get a cut of the proceeds, like any other business, I guess. Sounds legit, innit? I mean, it sounds fine until you read the fine print. Okay, in order to invite someone to this holiday, whatever, you have to pay. That's the first. You see the first one. Is it the first alarm bells? Why am I paying you to make money? Surely it's enough that I bring you customers, isn't it? Why do I have to pay you to bring a customer? That don't make no sense already. Okay, and when you pay, you pay for a certain number of tokens. You can say, imagine I give you £100, I get 10 tokens. That basically means I can invite only 10 men. So if I want to invite an 11th man, I have to buy another 10 tokens. Nice to see. So the question now is, wait, who's the customer here? Am I the customer or they're the customer? Who's actually making the money for you? Is it me one, or is it them making money for you? So now you start to reveal, how are you able to offer these discounts? Because you're paying for it. Because these tokens you pay for actually have a shelf life. You have about a month to get them sent, to get them sold or whatever. That's the beginning of the Ponzi. How does it manifest even further than that? They say to you, actually, if you enroll other people to also enroll other people, then you get a cut of their one as well. So if they enroll someone else, as in they pay their £100 for 10 tokens, and they get 10 months to take that, you get a cut of their 10 tokens as well. So now you're even incentivized to not even bother enroll someone, just get someone else to do enrolling for you.
Yeah.
And now and hence the pyramid has now been formed, like Jay-Z. Here's a pyramid now being formed. So you can see the scam has already started to manifest itself. Already you're out of pocket before you made money. And who's making the profit? They are. This is how you see the money going upwards. Okay, where's the knowledge being learned in this process? I get someone enrolled to his business, but I have to pay someone to do that. So there's no risk involved in me. I'm not taking any inventory. I'm not actually buying anything that I actually own. I'm actually just paying the money. I'm actually giving them sadaqah effectively for the privilege. Listen carefully. I'm giving them money for the privilege of making money. So that's one of the examples of these Ponzi schemes or these pyramid schemes that exist. Usually you can tell that these pyramid schemes exist is because they tie in, or basically you could say they've monetized you. You actually become the product as well. You're not only an employee, you're also a product where income comes from you actually as well. That's one of the many examples of a Ponzi scheme. And just for those who are unaware of a Ponzi scheme or pyramid schemes, basically the way it works is effectively money is effectively circulated in a circular fashion. So for example, I'm at the top of the pyramid. If I get two men to give me some money, like they said, they give me £100 each. So that's now I have a top of the pyramid scheme. I have £100, and I've promised them income on a return on their investment. So I said, look, every month you're gonna get like 50 quid. No, 10 quid. Cool. First month they get 10 quid each. How did they do that? Because they gave me 200, isn't it? So I've now given them back one. And I said to them, look, if you want to earn more, get two of them each, and then you get more income, because when they pay, you get a cut and then whatnot. So these two now get two other people each. So that's now 4 men in. That's now 400 quid in. Of the 400 quid, they got a cut and you got even more of a cut. Now the next month comes along, they need to get their payout. So then part of your 400 you have now, you give it £10 each. So that's now £60 you've given out now. And then you tell them, like, if you bring in more people, you can earn more. So as you can see here, nothing's actually being done. I'm not producing any products. I'm not learning anything. I'm not advertising anything. I'm not doing anything other than receiving money and then giving it back to someone else in a circular motion, whereby the people at the top get the most money and those at the bottom are hoping for their cut. And when the pyramid eventually dries up, meaning that there's no more customers you could get to stay in the pyramid, then all of a sudden the guys at the top disappear. Where man gone? Man disappear. Where? But he promised me, but man gone, innit? What did I say? But you told me you get making money. Yeah, I was making money, but now I'm not making it anymore, and now you're not making it anymore. And that's basically how it works. With all investment, there needs to be some kind of product, some kind of thing being produced, something kind of done, or at least preserved. There's things being done. Whereas generally speaking, a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme is effectively a ruse, it's a deception. You promise something, you're given the carrot to bring in more money, but at some point they're going to disappear. And that's how you get scammed. And there's many examples of being scammed other than Ponzi schemes. For example, one of the biggest scams that you guys are probably already, maybe some of you involved in, don't really realize, which is actually a pyramid scheme. If you just listen to what I just said a minute ago and apply it to this, is state pension, or any pension for that matter. So basically, I'm paying monthly a pension. What's that money going to be spent to? What's happened to that pension? Are they holding that money to the side for when I get older and they give it back to me? No, they're not. The money I'm paying now is paying the guy who is old now. So literally, as I said, as the pyramid goes, the guys at the bottom are paying to feed the guys at the top. As those who've already lived their life and now they're retired, they're getting the money that you're paying. And then when you get older, you're expecting the next guy at the bottom of the pyramid to come and pay you one. So at some point, it's going to be unsustainable. Hence why the kuffar are even saying openly, not even shying it, saying, look, there's too many old people. The pyramid is getting too heavy. There's not enough men at the bottom to pay the people at the top. Or what's even happening, it's right now about China, saying China's in trouble because of their one-child scheme. There's not enough youth to pay for the elderly now, so they're in trouble. So this is essentially a pension scheme, is literally a pyramid scheme. But we've all bought into it. We've all thought, wait, I need to sort my pension. Bro, your pension is a pyramid. You're paying now for the next guy, hoping, listen carefully, and this is all pyramid schemes, hoping that when you get time to get your pay, that the pyramid still continues. That the game is still afoot. It's hope. But that's effectively how it works. So that's another example of one of these many scams that exist in our society. Top-down scams. What's quite interesting is that some of these scams we would never expect to come from institutionalized systems like government, but nonetheless we kind of see it. So before Margaret comes in, I want to open up the floor for any kind of questions, because we've got a lot more other things to discuss in the future, and I don't want to take up the time with me just ranting on, and you know I'll go on. So if anyone has any questions about what I've said so far, then we can.
Assalamu alaikum for that introduction in regards to money. One question I have, if understanding the limitations of money, so for example, someone comes and promises you an unbelievable return, and all you have to do is give them an envelope, all right? You're not knowing what it's put into, it's an investment. How does money work so we can understand what kind of return is realistic?
Yeah.
Whether you invest in a company, Amazon, oil, what kind of return is realistic to say, you know what? No, that's nonsense. There's no way I'm going to get 100% back in a year or 6 months or whatever.
The thing is, it's hard to say, because it is very possible to get way above 100% return back within a short space of time in a legitimate activity. So, okay, let me give an example. Someone says to you, look, I know in China, they have this special fruit that only grown in China, and no one really knows about it. So there's not much demand for it, but it's so dirt cheap. If we get X amount of money, we can buy some up nice, large, import into England. And I'm telling you, once it drops into the England, British shores, we're going to easy 200% markup, easy. And that's after tax. So that's not unreasonable. It's not unfeasible. I mean,
but then you've bought an actual product that is going to sell for, you bought it for X and you sold it for Y. But we're talking about, I'm giving money to you to do something, or you're going to invest in a company. Is that a difference between that's actually trade? You've actually bought a product.
No, it's the same thing, really. I mean, you could buy it yourself, like you just said. No, I could buy the product myself, or I could give it to someone else who I'm going to trust to enact and do the same thing. So the question now is, we have what's called counterparty risk, as in we have risk of a third party. If you did it yourself, all you have to worry about is your own inabilities and your own failures. I mean, maybe you might not execute as you're supposed to. Maybe you can't negotiate as well as the next man, so you fail yourself. So that's your own failings, and you take the hit as it is. But when you give money to someone else, you're now betting on his ability to do something. So then, as any investor, you need to start asking the right questions. Okay, if you're able to do this, prove that you've done it at the very least. Show me paperwork. Okay, you said you invested and you've been bought and you've sold. Have you done? I mean, is this your first goal? Is this your first time doing it? And if it is, why should I trust you? I mean, how do I know how do I even know you even know what you're doing? It's these kind of questions that people sometimes tend not to ask. They just are promised something, and again, they start thinking about the end result without thinking about the journey. Okay, I know I want to get there, and I really want to get there, but how do I get there? How exactly, brother? Explain to me. How do you get there, by the way? I mean, you do this and you do that. Okay, so when I give you this money, what, is it going to go to a bank account? I mean, are you going to transfer it there? How? Explain to me the mechanism. If the brother can adequately and fluently explain to you with evidence, paperwork that is independently verified, then it's a risk. It's normal trade. Give them the money, and because you've already laid out clearly the pathway, the journey. Where is it? It's like a map. You said to me, there's gold down in the ravine. Where's the ravine? Show me on the map where the ravine is. And then show me evidence. Give me footage. I want a picture. I want some imagery that you have this gold that you can go and get. Show me. It's just basic. I mean, if you want to trust him, like maybe he's your brother, maybe he's your cousin, you don't trust him. I mean, that's fine. That's family trust, whatever. But if it's a stranger, you gotta give me something, man. Come on, what's your evidence? And that's actually why, and that's, we have to give credit where credit's due. In this country and a lot of Western countries, before you can invest legitimately, you have to do this kind of things. To get approved by financial institutions, you have to actually prove that you got money, you got reserves, you have to have a plan. Everything has to be made bare before you can even offer your services to investment as a real investment. That's why a lot of cryptocurrencies in the 2017, even recently, but 2017 specifically, they were promising X, Y, and Z, and people threw money at them, And then two, the FCA or the SEC came in, which is basically two government bodies that are there to regulate financial services. They came and said, wait. What are you offering here? Where's your proof? And what's going on there? Basically, to shut them down because they hadn't done their due diligence to prove that they can even do what they say they're going to do. So, alhamdulillah, there is some kind of regulations and things involved to help prevent kind of thing. But often, when it comes to scams, it's like that kind of whisper thing in it. It's like, don't tell anyone, it's between me and you. And there's a reason for that, because if they were to make themselves public, that they're making themselves liable for prosecution if things go wrong. So we need to basically be aware of it. That so if someone promises you high returns, it's usually because it's high risk. Being high risk doesn't make it a scam, but it means it is high risk. There's a higher risk you're going to lose all your cash. So just to differentiate high risk to scammy activity. Scam basically means they're lying to you. High risk means it could work. The probability is quite low, but if it does work, you're going to have some upside, which is insane. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Generally speaking, in the markets, things that are low risk, they're low return. Things that are high risk, they're high return. I mean, give you an example just in terms of cars. If you invested your money into Toyota, everyone knows Toyota. They've had like a track record of like decades now. It's not a high risk investment. Whereas technically speaking, Tesla was a high risk investment for many, many years because a car company that is solely electric. There's no infrastructure for electric cars. The cars can't even drive over a certain limit without needing to spend like an hour charging. It's high risk. But if you look at what's the returns in Tesla stocks recently, it's outdone almost everyone else because that's how it works. High risk gives you high return, and low risk generally gives you low returns. That's just the nature of it. So I wouldn't say that just because something gives you high returns, that it's a scam. But generally speaking, people promise you X amount of excessive returns, more as a carrot. I mean, if it's a scam thing, more as a carrot to just entice those who are just greedy, rather than I'm saying anything else. That's kind of one thing.
Okay, we've got a couple of guys who've put their hands up. I'm going to go to Nofel first, and then after I'll go to Abu Sulaiman.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام نوفل.
كيف حالكم يا أستاذ؟
الحمد لله أهلا وسهلا.
It's just a couple of questions really. One is around, so just, you talked about investment. And in terms of, let's say someone decides they want to put money into particular shares and stocks, are there any platforms that you'd recommend in relation to actually going about investing in those stocks and shares?
Unfortunately, brother, I can't really advise you on that, because the last thing I read about stocks and shares is that if a company has any element of riba on their balance sheet, that's considered a haram activity and you can't invest in it at all. As the fatwa Ibn Baz. Now, I'm fully aware that that's not the fatwa of a lot of people. Some people say if it's a certain amount, then you can purify the investment by removing that certain amount. I think some say 3%. Some even go as high as say 30%. If the haram activity is less than 30%, then it's okay to invest as long as you purify at 30%. But me personally, I haven't really got involved in stocks because of the uncertainty. And because I personally don't believe in the price action in the stock markets. Stock markets, in my view, are highly manipulated, the price action. And especially now, due to the foreseen, as you see in the next discussion we have next 2 weeks' time, that the stock market has been artificially inflated. Asset inflation is real, and asset inflation is highly correlated to money printing and all sorts of stuff. So because of that, I've always been uncomfortable involving myself in anything which is part of that system. But it doesn't mean you can't invest in people, as in Muslim Muslim business. For example, if you know a brother who's doing, he's open a restaurant. I mean, there's no reason why Muslims can't do that, literally, as in, no need to go up the ladder down to these big companies. I mean, more grassroots. We have Muslims functioning, trying to do a thing. Invest in your brother and sister, literally, as in if someone has a good idea and you reckon they have a chance of pulling it off, invest directly into our community. There was actually one thing someone said, I'm not sure how true it is, one of those things that you hear, I'm not sure how true it is, but it sounds good, where they said one of the reasons why the Jewish community are technically very rich is because the money circulates amongst themselves longer than other communities. And I fully see that as in, if they want to invest in those they know in their own community, and they enrich themselves before it goes out to other communities. And when you start studying about economics and how money flows, that is literally how communities build wealth. So if you are able to keep the money, I'm not saying you must, by the way, I'm not saying the only trade with Muslims and band the kuffar. I'm not saying that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that rather than looking at these big tech stocks and looking at returns and blah blah blah, you actually probably can make more returns in helping brothers who have a good idea, a good business model. Maybe if they do a restaurant, they have a good recipe online. Throw a few £1,000 at them. Say, look, I want to buy a couple of shares. Write up an agreement, Islamic agreement between us, and make sure it's all written and attested by at least some reputable brothers and citizens in the community. And you can make investment like that. And like I said, that could be another way of investing your wealth rather than big things. Does that make sense, brother?
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. Jazakallah khair.
But I mean, if you want knowledge about the stocks as what you can do, if you still want to do that, then you're going to have to speak to others who are actually directly involved. I myself, I'm only really involved in, if anything, in crypto, not really anything to do with stocks. So I'll have to refer you to those individuals. What I do advise you to do, though, as someone who's involved in crypto, is I advise you to speak to people who are actually involved in it, not those who know about it, those who are actually involved in it. So if you ask a brother who said, can I invest in this stock? I mean, first question you should ask is, are you involved in stocks? I mean, do you yourself invest in stocks? If they don't actually invest in stocks, I wouldn't really give much weight to what they say. And it's not because they're not knowledgeable, by the way. It's not. Yeah. It's because when you're actively involved in something, there are nuances to the industry that you would only get if you were involved. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And I've seen many times fatwa of ulama on things that those who are involved in it, no, that's not the case. So that's just the only thing I would say. It's the only thing I would say.
Okay, cool. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair.
Abu Sulaiman, and then we're going to come to Zoo after that.
Muawiyah, Jazakallah khairan for that. Just discussion about the trading aspect you're mentioning, the brothers who are involved. But the thing I want to know is that, there are many cases of Muslim brothers and businesses, how would I put it, in terms of the description and the business, they lie a lot. They're deceptive when it comes to making out what the business is so that people could invest some money. Even what you mentioned with regards to what an offer regarding doing a contract, all of that, most of the time they don't put no value to it because they just want the money from the people. So in terms of this particular aspect of the trading manners, how important do you think that people need to look at the person's behavior before whatever sweetness coming out regarding business from their mouth?
Yeah, that's excellent. And the thing is, what you mentioned there, I would like to highlight is that it's not new. People being treacherous and breaking contracts isn't very new. And the reason why I say that is because we have a whole Sharia which highlights and dictates how we function when that happens. And the only way we would have known that is if this was experienced at the time of the Sahaba and done by individuals, and and Sharia was revealed. So we have specific guidelines to cater for that kind of stuff. That's number one. Number two, al-asl fi mu'amalat al-mushaha. Al-asl, the general rule, fi mu'amala, in dealings, is al-mushaha, greed. Never go into a deal thinking that we're gonna do stuff for each other. No. You're doing it for yourself. He's doing it for himself. You're doing it for yourself. That needs to be the basis of your interaction. Never, ever go into a trade deal saying, I'm going to help him out. No, help yourself out. The whole reason why business works properly in the marketplace is when both parties are trying to get the most they can, and they eventually come to the middle ground. But you must have this pull between either side. There must be a part where you are trying to get the best you can, the best deal you can. And up until you reach a part where you're both happy with a fair deal. If you go into a business transaction and you go in there half-hearted thinking, I want to make money, but money is slightly, money is a bit, it's dunya, I want the hereafter. And I just want a little bit of finding money. If you go into that kind of, that mindset, that weak kind of mindset, you're going to get walked over. You need to go into a mindset, almost ruthless, but in a halal way. When I say ruthless in a halal way, as in the rules are clear. This is what I want. This is what I'm putting in. This is how I want it to be done. Are you happy with that? Great. Let's do the deal. It's not about, oh, brother, help us out. And because no. The issue people have is, I see often when it comes to business transactions that go wrong, is at the beginning, they were too complacent. They weren't strict enough. And now when it's time to now cash in and see something's not working out, now they're getting strict, but it's too late by that time. I mean, you already was wishy-washy at the beginning. You wasn't strict at the very beginning, how things are gonna operate. Now it's time to be strict. It's too late. You've already laid a weak foundation. So sometimes we need to be very strict in how we behave. And in order to do that, we need to educate ourselves, which is always what I'm saying to people. We need to educate how business works, experience it yourself, work with someone. I mean, it'd be good if you could shadow someone. If someone knows someone's got business, shadow them, call them up. Especially if people are successful in your community, call them up. A lot of the things that I attribute to some level of success I've got is because I used to ask the brothers next door to me at Sahara Grill, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? They literally just gave me their time. As in, I went to those who already made it, already are successful, and I said to them, oh, how can I do the same? And they just tell you. So don't try and be an iceberg on your own trying to figure it out. No, just ask those around you, get advice, get help and that kind of stuff. That's the first thing. And expect that the person's going to try and get the most out of you, going to try and undercharge you, trying to undercut you. Expect that stuff. But factor that into your dealings with them. So if you think he might cheat you, write in a contract, this is not the case. And make sure this contract is somewhat enforceable. Does that make sense? But at some level, let's get to the point, at some level, you can't avoid being someone trying to pull the wool over your eyes in a haram way. I don't mean in a halal way, as in trying to get the most value, but I'm saying trying to cheat you. You can never really ever avoid that. Don't think that just because some investment company with X, Y, and Z on the stock exchange is not trying to cheat you as well. All of them are, every human being had the capacity to try and massage the books, you know what I mean? Everyone's got that bit inside them. And they try and get away, the word is they're trying to get away as much as they can. That's what it is. Everyone's trying to get away with as much as they can. So expect that. Make sure you try and make your expectations in line with reality. Don't have this fantasy that, yeah, he's going to work for you. He's not going to work for you. He works for himself. Hopefully you get your share of what he's doing, but he's going to fundamentally work for himself. So I wouldn't let the potential for someone to cheat you put you off from investing. That's just the point. Every investment is a risk. You just need to make sure that you mitigate that risk with adequate research and especially background checks, which is part of your research. Adequate research and background checks, and don't take things for granted. As just because he said so, I said wallahi. I mean, what does that mean? Wallahi, what does that mean? Is can I buy food with wallahi? Can I pay bill? Can I pay rent with wallahi? I want facts, brother. I want the real thing. So I'm saying it sounds things we need as Muslims we need to remove this softness that we can somehow make money in a nice way. No, make money with a straight face and look you straight in the eye. I want my cash. So in a halal way.
But the question I'm having here, those who are dishonest or who are deceptive when it comes to trading, yeah, they do what they do for the sake of the money, if you know what I mean. But for people to know, I'm just saying that that dishonesty and fraud or whatever it is that they do to get the money from the people, and then they disappear, or they say, oh, when you ask them, well, you said this, you wrote the contract, etc. Now you're not fulfilling it. And again, the issue is in this country, is somebody says, I'm bankrupt, you can't get anything. Doesn't matter what the contract is. When he says the word bankrupt, that's it. Whatever you invested is gone. That's what I'm talking about. So deceptive, and then taking the money, then saying, brother Allah, I don't have any money.
What you're highlighting there is a more grassroots fundamental issue with our society, with our community, beyond just what we were talking about here. As in, not just Muslims, but people. We live in a society that is literally corrupt, and there's a reason why it's corrupt. I'll touch upon that more in the next one. And the thing is, what it is. If you're in a society where its basis, its foundation is salih, even if you're a corrupt person, it will leak into your brain that salah. But if you're in a society that's corrupt and evil at the root, it's rotten. Even if you're trying to be a good person, it will leak into your character in your mu'amala as just it's just the way the beast is. You could be the most righteous person, saf al-awwal, everything, all the salah, every fast, everything. But when it comes down to it, the system is broken to the level whereby it just breaks everyone. So yeah, unfortunately, we are in a society that affects us all in a negative. You could go to another society that is better. I mean, you could believe that narrative if you wanted to. I don't know. But at the end of the day, my point is, I wouldn't let the potential of being scammed put you off from investing into people. Just basically just have that in your mind. I could be scammed. So what can I do to mitigate that in the future?
Yeah, Jazakallah khairan.
Okay, we're going to go to Zoo. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. My name is Brother Abu Amina. Jazakallah khair.
Abu Amina, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Jazakallah so far, mashallah, it's been very informative. I just wanted to kind of touch on the points you mentioned, and I'm glad you related everything back to kind of education and knowledge, mashallah. I mean, we're talking about obviously scams, and you know, unfortunately, when a scam happens, there are people that really suffer in scams, and particularly people who have, you know, unfortunately given, you know, their savings of some sort, whether it's their month's electrical ones or their, we've seen people giving their Hajj ones and like this, you know, they were planning for Hajj. So this kind of, you know, the scam is one thing, but the advice to these people about what the rights of their money and what they should be spending their money on. So if you've got money that you should be spending on heating, electricity and your family, and then you're trying to get the quick buck and turn it around, obviously that's one big loophole, because that's where the large volume is. You know, there are thousands of people doing this. So some advice on that. The second one, Sheikh, you mentioned about risk, obviously, and the notion of risk. I think, unfortunately, whenever we have something called a loss now, we always think of it as a scam, because we somehow think that we all have a right to make money and a right to profit. And we don't understand that, you know, you mentioned Qadar as well, that yes, investments, you know, we understand that even the so-called experts always write investments, you know, the risk is blah, 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 blah. The third thing, Sheikh, if you just clarify, is all commission-based systems, are they Ponzi schemes? Because we're talking about alarm bells. So if you see anywhere where they says you can get a commission in it, would that be an alarm bell to say this is a commission system? Jazakallah khair.
So bring it back here. So the first question was what again? So the second question.
It was just really about people, the right of their money and why they spend it in investments.
Yes. So when it comes to people, unfortunately, like I said, part of making money is learning about making money. And I think that's something that most Muslims, I mean, I guess not Muslims as well, but most Muslims fail to realize is that you can't just expect money to just come in your direction without paying the zakah on that money, if that makes sense. Or like, as Imam Ahmad said, never hadith came to him except they paid the zakah on that knowledge. As in, you have to pay the zakah on the knowledge. You have to try and pay your dues to the process. And that is fundamentally knowledge. So one of the biggest issues of making money is risk assessment. Yeah, I could make this money. I mean, let me reword it. People always see the upside and then hardly ever even look at the downside. It's as if money always goes up. As in, if I do this, it will do that. No, there's risk. Okay, yeah, you could lose X, Y, Z, and you could earn X, Y, Z. How will that loss affect you? That's why people always say never invest more than you can willingly lose. That's basically the first rule of investment. Never invest rent money to try and make a profit, because you can't risk losing rent money. It has to be money that you have on the side, money that is not disposable cash, literally disposable as a part of investment. You can't invest literally your hard-earned cash. That's why even people who invest money in big things, they still keep their day job, because the day job is paying their bills. They don't just throw their cash at something and then hope that the money's gonna pay for it. That's the first thing. So my advice in that regard, I'll say to everyone, before you even hear of the upside, how much money you're gonna make, the first question should be, what's the downside? What am I gonna lose if it goes wrong? Is it everything? Is it 10%? Is it 50%? What's the risk I'm gonna put in here before you even attempt to assess the gains? Because the thing is, if I could lose, if I'm gonna lose, like, if I can verifiably only lose 10%, listen to me carefully. If I can verifiably only lose 10%, what I mean by that is, I'm not saying I expect to lose 10%, but verifiably, if I lose 10%, the trade is ended, the deal is done, and I've got money back. If I can verifiably only lose 10%, but the upside is like 200%, that's obvious. But if I potentially could lose everything, and my upside is only 100% or 50%, then you have this information you need to put in front of your face. What the upside and what is the downside? And that's the fundamental question you need to ask always. And I think anyone, I think even in trading, the one thing that always gets traders is the lack of management of risk. They can't manage risk. They just bet on this and bet on that, and then they lose everything, and they wonder, what the heck, why is it happening to me? Why have I lost all my money? Because you didn't manage your risk. And the second question was, what was it? The second question was?
It's to do with the notion of loss, basically, that we always treat. I mean, you kind of covered that. The notion of loss is basically a scam. So, yeah,
and that's another thing as well. So, in terms of investment, this is very important. In terms of investment, you need to have realistic time frames. People often ask me, "Oh, brother, if I buy this, what's the when will I make this? When will I make my gains? Or is it always a good trade? Is it a good deal?" My first question, always a reverse question to them, is, what's your time frame, brother? When do you expect to make these gains? I mean, if you expect to make these gains in 2 weeks, that's not the same question as I expect to make these gains in 2 years or in 5 years. And if you look at a rich man, their portfolio is like 5-year, 10-year portfolio. They're not looking at making a quick buck. I mean, are you telling me Warren Buffett and these other cats, they're looking at making a quick 2-week flip? No, they're buying stuff for like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years portfolio, looking at interest rates. They're looking at long term. So why are we not behaving the same? We need to look at investment as a long-term activity, number one. Number two, sometimes activities take time to mature, especially like when you invest in a business. You might invest in a restaurant. Brother, I gave this money like 2 years ago. When am I going to see any returns? Brother, it's only been 2 years. How long do you reckon it takes to build a restaurant from scratch, train staff, build a brand, get your workflow done, get your supply chain work done? I mean, these things take time to develop and mature. Do you think 2 years you're going to make 5x on your return? So time frame is very, very key and very important when assessing investment, and also it will help you manage your expectations. So effectively, if you're happy to throw £5,000 at some business and wait for 5 years before you make 10 grand, if that's good for you, then alhamdulillah, then that sounds like you're using your brain. If you think 5 grand is going to become 10 in a couple of months, I mean, it's up to you to decide. But you get what I'm saying? High risk, high return; low risk, low return. That's usually the kind of template which is kind of true for almost everything. Has that answered your question, brother?
Yeah, Jazakallah. And the last one was just on commission-based systems and Ponzi schemes. Are they one of the signs of an alarm bell?
Yes. Like, basically, it's like multi-level marketing is the kind of same kind of thing. So no, commission, getting money on commission is fine. Basically, what I mean by commission in Islamic terms is what's called a ju'l. A ju'l is basically, I say, guys, whoever finds my watch, I'll give him 5 quid. So I've made an announcement of a reward of an action being done. So I can reword it by saying, guys, whoever brings me a customer, I give him £5. So whoever brings me a customer, I'll give him £5. That's a commission-based stuff. That's not a problem. But if I tie that reward to first you pay me for that privilege, that's now haram. There's nothing wrong with giving a commission-based stuff, and ju'l is manifest differently. I mean, it's manifest. The rules and regulations of ju'l in Islam is quite clear. So, for example, if someone was doing work for you, and they did it for you as a favor, and then after completing that work, they found out about the ju'l and they say, I want to claim it. There's rules and regulations that determines how you interact with a ju'l, but it's essentially, fundamentally, nothing wrong in being rewarded for fulfilling a certain act by the person who lays down that rule. There's nothing wrong in doing that. It only becomes an issue when you have to pay for that kind of stuff. When you pay for that kind of stuff, yeah. Which is essentially where the Ponzi comes in, because Ponzi, you are paying as well as they are paying, and it kind of trickles upwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Any other questions?
Okay, we're gonna stop now we're gonna summarize up we're gonna break now for Maghrib.
Yeah.
Can we summarize, Maria, because we're gonna stop now in regards to one, generally the Islamic principles on making money.
Yeah.
Right. And if we stick to those principles in making money, we're less likely, because you said the aspect of greed. There is an aspect of greed. We want more. We want more.
Yeah. Which is not bad, by the way. It's not bad, by the way.
But it can be bad if you don't do your you just said, okay, you can make 150% markup on this without doing your due diligence on the product. So having greed is not a problem as long as it doesn't blind your desire.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's basically with greed, as I said, that the general basis of all transactions is mushaha. Everyone wants the most what they can. They want to pay the least and get the most. That's how it is. But at some point, we'll meet the middle ground, whereby what I'm willing to offer you is what you want, and what I want for what I want to get is what I want. So we reach that middle ground. But as a basic Islamic premise is that we have to, number one, i'lam rahimakallah. As I mentioned in the very beginning of Surah Thalatha, know rahimakallah, and may Allah have mercy upon you. The first thing we have to have is knowledge. فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنبِكَ. Know that none is worthy of worship of Allah, then seek forgiveness for your sins, which is used as evidence for that same premise. Similar principle. Knowledge precedes speech and action. And I'll extend that by saying knowledge precedes making income. Before you make money, have knowledge and learn about risk and learn that kind of stuff. And if you can, as a side thing, if you can learn a bit about how markets actually work, actually YouTube and find out about how economy works, how markets work. I mean, there's a very good book if you want to learn or read called Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, which basically is a university level grade kind of book on economics. But he's wrote in a very basic way. Anyone can follow it. It's not difficult. No difficult charts and stuff. It's just easy to just read it. But that's the first couple of chapters. The first couple of chapters are amazing to understand the mechanisms of markets and how markets work and how they function. What are price signals? What are price telling you? How to read these signs? This is important information you need to know when it comes to business and things like that. Learn about business. Don't be shy to listen to what someone says. The book is called Basic Economics. You can get it on the iBook store or whatever. Or if you go to YouTube and type in Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, there's actually an audio reading of it. If you just feel lazy or want to listen to it instead, there's actually an audio reading of it. It's a summary. It's not the full book, but it's still 15 hours.
A quick question before we go. Would you say that obviously knowledge precedes trust? Because sometimes trust precedes knowledge. We just say, all right, bro, I know you, or someone's giving you a tazkiyah. Here's an envelope. Go and do what you got to do, without doing due diligence because he's been referred by such and such a person.
Yeah. So what I would say in that regard is that people have misunderstood the word trust when it comes to business. Trust comes underneath as in you trust in the facts. Individuals, not individuals in facts. I trust that this person will bring me a return because X, Y, and Z. Just because someone else trusts him, that's what you've done there is you've outsourced your brain to someone else. So don't be upset if it doesn't work out for you. I mean, that's just how it is. If you've outsourced your own brain and your own activities to someone else, basically saying all responsibility, I'm now going to pass on to this other guy because he trusts him. Then yeah, I mean, take responsibility for your own actions. You that's what you did, brother. You trusted someone else's opinion rather than come to your own conclusion. What I'm trying to say to you, empower yourself, give yourself the tools that you can assess things properly and trust in the facts. If this person's got good at his investment, why is he good at investment? What knowledge does he have to do so? What's his track record? What are his success rates? These are facts. But by the way, these facts are not deterministic. They don't determine what the future will be. It just determines what it could be. And that's what you're trusting. You're trusting in what it could be based on the facts.
Excellent. Okay, we'll finish there. Are you with us next week?
I don't know. Are we doing it every other week or just every week?
When do you want to do it, Sheikh? If
I mean, I didn't want to take away from any other podcast you might have other people. So if you've got other people lined up, then
no,
fine,
we've got. I think we should do the series week after week.
Cool. So next week then, inshallah.
Yeah. So next week we'll be doing money, the biggest scam of the century. We'll be understanding the value of money, what is money, and how we are being scammed by money itself. And we do be doing that same time, same place with our Ustad Maria Tucker. Just a couple of announcements. Tomorrow we have our Zoom discussion or talk with Abu Sulaiman. It's advice about Sha'ban and being ready for Ramadan. So that is tomorrow at 6 o'clock, I think. Abu Sulaiman, is that right? 6 o'clock or 5:30? I think he's going to get back to me now. Anyway, he's going to put out the flyer, so I think it's either 6 or 5:30. And last news is that we have our Wednesday Zoom discussion with Sister Naima Roberts, where she'll be talking about her successes in her life and giving some advice to the brothers as to how to allow their women to be successful. That'll be on Wednesday at 8 o'clock with Sister Naima Roberts. So I think we've come to the end. Jazakallah khair and Maria Tucker for your excellent introduction to how not to be scammed. And then the series will give us a holistic picture about how Muslims can better deal with money. Okay, brothers and sisters, inshallah, we'll see you again next week, inshallah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.